Hey everybody, welcome. Glad you could make it. All right, welcome to the second and final round of the Fall 2020 MFA student readings. You're all in for a treat tonight. It's going to be a great time. Um, Everyone find your seats. All right, we're going to get started right away. I'm not reading. We're going to get started with our first reader, someone who I had the pleasure of taking a class with this semester, someone whose work I know is terrific. McKenzie Watterson is a Montana-based writer and educator. When she isn't in the Stony Brook classroom, she teaches creative writing in Montana juvenile detention centers through the nonprofit Freeverse. She has served as fiction editor for The Oval and contributing editor for the Southampton Review. She's currently working on a novel and a collection of interconnected short fiction, and tonight she'll be reading a flash fiction entitled Garage Sale. Give it up for Mackenzie.
Thanks for that kind introduction, Cass. I'm going to jump right on into this short. I knew it was his house, even recognized his address on the neon pink garage sale sign up the block. The siding, once a faded blue, had been repainted unremarkable beige, but the brick that lined the lower half of the house still had one long crack, running horizontal with the ground, splitting cement between red. I used to stick my finger in there, chip stone with my nail, while we sat in the grass trading calculus answers, just to get a rise out of him, just to coax his head from the books. I could have spent my whole visit home without passing his place had it not been for that sign, but it had been years and his family could have moved. I parked, and from the first table at the edge of the driveway, picked up an old sweater, pilled green, and breathed deeply. The wool surrendered only cardboard and must, none of his warm cinnamon and cedar. I lost track of him after he joined the Marines. He never did like social media. It was easy. A woman in a red Winnie the Pooh sweatshirt and teal fanny pack orbited the sale, marking prices, taking cash. She had sandy hair like him, but so do a lot of people. From the other side of the driveway, with 3 card tables laden with dishes, candles, and board games between us, the curve of her nose was not distinct, not like his strong bow. He had never introduced me to his mother, always sent me home when her car pulled into the driveway. What teenage boy introduces his calculus buddy to his mother? But perhaps she had noticed us boys studying in her yard. On the third table rested cap guns, felt cowboy hats, a plastic sheriff badge with 1 star leg broken off, a nylon blue lasso, and leather boots ascending in size from baby to man. He had never seemed like a Western guy to me, in his basketball shorts and t-shirts, but then again, maybe I didn't know him so well. Looking for anything in particular? She zipped her fanny pack, weaving toward me between tables. I shook my head. You know, these boots used to be my son's. Had she ever seen us on the lawn? Did he ever tell her about the shy boy he sat to in the period, about how we shared trail mix in the yard before she got home from work? She lifted a boot from the smallest pair, light brown embossed with turquoise horseshoes. Genuine leather, got them all in Laramie, yearly trips to the rodeo. How much for that pair? I asked. You got a little tight this size? She smiled, adjusted her fanny pack. Yes, ma'am, they should fit him just nicely, I lied. She puffed out a breath, looked me up and down. You can have them. I couldn't, just doesn't seem right to sell them. She pushed them into my hands. Take them for your boy. The last day I saw him, in the sticky June popsicle heat of finals, he'd grasped my hand and held it from the brick and told me his mother was going to kill me if she knew it was me and not the weather crumbling at stone. And perhaps he had held it a second longer than necessary. I'm sorry. I dropped the boots and shuffled to my car. I think I would have loved him even more, knowing he had that collection of boots marking every year of his growth. It would have been unbearable. Thank you.
All right, that was an awesome way to kick off this reading. Thank you so much, Mackenzie. All right, our next reader, another person who I had the pleasure of sharing a class with this semester. Really excited to introduce Meryl Branch-McTiernan. Meryl Branch-McTiernan is what they call an elder millennial, which means she likes to write about the Clintons and the impact they had on her sexual mores. She lives in Chinatown and recently came into possession of an oven, but please don't expect her to cook for you. This piece was inspired by Susan Minot's story, Lust. Give it up for Meryl.
Hi everyone, this is called Bases. French, feel, finger, fuck. Those were the bases. It started with Lenny Ramirez on the set of Oliver in 7th grade. He played the artful Dodger, and he was very interested in the lanyard keychain my parents had given me to wear around my neck. You can't keep losing your keys. Backstage, I wrapped myself in the thick mahogany velvet curtain during rehearsal, while we waited to come on set for the pub scene and sing papa, that's how it goes. Lenny's fingers entered the fold, wandering from the center of my chest to the anthill on the left, to the anthill on the right, circling my flaccid nipple until he roused it from sleep. Papa, everyone knows. In social studies class, when I was supposed to be thinking about King Henry VIII and the wives he slayed, I was just waiting for it to happen. Finally, I told my friend Genevieve, because secrets have never been my thing. When she confronted him, he played the fool, artfully dodging her accusations. And then the whole thing was over. They all suppose what they want to suppose when they hear papa. I never told Genevieve that I liked it. Then there was Clinton Jones in 10th grade. I am Clinton like the president, he announced. He directed deliveries to the Wallbounds across the street from my apartment building. I was always on the verge of missing the bus in the morning, running while slurping on a box of Tropicana. When I actually missed it one day, Clinton said he would drive me to school. I got into his Buick where an air freshener shaped like a strawberry hung from the mirror. My parents never used air freshener. He turned up the tunes, smooth jazz. Can I put my hand on your leg, he asked. I didn't want to be rude. It was only a mile, and he was saving me cab fare and my parents' wrath. His hand stayed on my leg, on my thigh, never went any further. It wasn't even a bass, really. But my friends called him Chester the Molester anyway. Does this make me Monica? I wanted to be Hillary. Lior Ben Ramon, that sexy Moroccan Jew, took me to the junior prom. He was tall with cobalt eyes, and I met him at Parkwood Pool during the summer. Yael, who had organized our limo, whose date was his friend, asked me before the prom, what base will you let him get to? I didn't want to make any commitments. Second, I said, I'm sure. Come on, let him get to third, she coaxed. I wasn't ready for third. I barely spent any time at second. I had the sense I could spend a year at second, and that once I got to third, there was no place to go but home. I never saw Lior again. Thank you for taking me to third base, Sasha Soleimani, on that 4th of July before senior year when we couldn't find any fireworks. We were 3 girls driving around town with our bathing suits in the trunk. You directed us to your house so that we could go for a swim, drink a Mike's Hard Lemonade, get to know each other better. Lindsay took a shower with Ben. Alison blew Byron behind the house, and I went to the den downstairs with you. Did I want you to finger me? No, that's okay, but I'll touch it if you want. Up and down until you exploded. Milky white fireworks shot into the sky, and it was all because of me. Still, I felt guilty about what my hands had done. You weren't my boyfriend. You weren't even my friend. Like Lady Macbeth, I couldn't get clean, so I jumped into the pool and swam 10 laps. And did you thank me? That never happened, you told Yael. By the time I got to Lindsay's party in the spring of senior year, I was already tired when Jason Rosini asked me to go upstairs. Jason had always liked me, and I'd always liked everybody else. We were on Lindsay's brother's bed when he put his tongue in my mouth, and it was a surprisingly welcome guest. His hands wandered down, and I stopped him. I want to finger you, he said. I wanted him to. Normally, I'd say, okay, but I have my period, so he was gentle, and maybe that's all I needed. Would you consider going down on me? He ran his fingers through my hair and finished my mouth. We slept in Lindsay's brother's bed, legs locked like Legos. In the morning, I put on my black pants and my white button-down shirt, my uniform for my job as a candy girl at the movie theater, which I'd taken so I could afford a trip to Acapulco for spring break. where we got our hair braided on the beach, skinny dipped in the pool, and spent hours at the nightclubs where the music was so loud. On the last night, I snuck away from the crowd toward the coat check, desperately trying to escape the pounding beats reverberating in my chest. And that's when it happened. French, feel, finger. Someone whose name I couldn't hear slipped his hands down my skirt and poked and prodded me until the other girls found me and said it was time to leave. The cab is waiting, back to the hotel, back to New York. Jason and I never got to spend any more time at Third. I went to college and he overdosed the following year. I don't know if people ever asked him about that night in Lindsay's brother's bed, but I'd like to think that if they did, he would have said, "We rounded Third and it was nice." Thank you.
All right, thank you, Meryl. Thank you. Great. Moving right along, our next reader, at the risk of repeating myself, another person I know from class. I don't have a prepared thing, but big fan of Quinn's writing. So I'm very excited to see what he has for us tonight. Everyone give it up for Quinn Adikes.
Thank you. All right, I'm going to read a flash piece called Landmines. For the past week, my son has been crapping on the front lawn. He's 7 years old and takes Mondo craps. I don't know where he learned this. We don't have a dog, but every day he gets out when I'm not looking and lets one rip. I tell him to at least go behind the house so the neighbors don't see, but he doesn't listen. Somehow nobody complains. But when I come home from work one day and step on one, that's the last straw. I've had enough, I tell him. This isn't normal for a 7-year-old, or anybody for that matter. And even a 7-year-old should be able to understand that. He just cries. He says that he still misses mommy, and I say that I miss her too, but I don't see the correlation. And also I tell him that it's been just as hard on daddy, and that mommy was the only woman daddy ever loved. And maybe it's a little unfair, but I ask if he realizes how expensive it is to raise a child. How I could take the money I've spent and the money that I will spend and buy a mansion. I could buy fancy cars and watches and go to Aruba 5 times a year, but will instead raise him. And I'm happy to do it, but he better crap in the bathroom that I just renovated on my credit card. He can even use the bidet so he doesn't have to get it on his hands when he's finished. I also remind him that I love him, that I'm only looking out for him, and that if this carries into adolescence, he'll never have a girlfriend. And his job prospects? Grim. He sniffles and says, "Okay, Daddy," and goes to his room and plays Angry Birds on his tablet. He really is a smart kid, all things considered. I'm lucky. I fall asleep in front of the TV, but at 3 in the morning, I wake up to him clawing at the front door. 3 in the morning. I don't have it in me to fight. I have to be up soon. So I go and unlock the door. At least it's getting cold out. Hopefully when winter kicks in, he snaps out of this. I've broken several parenting rules by giving in, but maybe I'm doing the right thing. Like when parents let their teenagers drink and throw parties under their supervision so that they can be sure everyone is at least being safe about it. Maybe by letting him do this in a controlled environment like our front yard, I'm saving him from a life of dumping in alleyways and tire stacks. Maybe if I act nonchalant, he'll get bored and move on to something else. 10 minutes go by and he still hasn't come inside. I stand at the window and try to make out his little body on the lawn, but it's so dark that I can't see him. I hear him though. I think he's crying. I open the front door. I'm in a t-shirt and underwear, and so the cold hits me like a fist. "Dylan," I yell, "is everything okay?" I hear for sure now the crying. I grab a flashlight and navigate the yard, careful to avoid any landmines he may have left since the last time I cleaned. And there he is, laying on his side facing the street with his pants around his ankles, his hiney shining like a pale moon. No fresh turd around that I can see. "Are you backed up, buddy?" Shivering, he rolls over. Tears stream down his face. He's not backed up. It's something else, I think. But what can I do other than kneel and hug him, naked ass and all? I don't know what to say. He looks up at me and snot clinks to my shirt, trailing like web, and I hug him tighter. The crying stops, and I carry him back to the house, the flashlight beam leading our way. That's it.
Thank you so much, Quinn. Thank you. And let's keep it going. The next reader is Ann Cooperstone. Everyone give it up for Ann.
Hi, everyone. I will be reading from a short story called The Dog Run. The old adage that dogs look like their owners was not true at our dog run. The one of us with blonde hair and collagen-plumped lips had a German Shepherd. Another of us was a Persian Jew with a golden retriever. We were bulky with skinny Vizslas, hard-looking punks with long-haired dachshunds. One of us was a young man with perfectly drawn eyebrows whose poodle drew stares ever since the day it played keep away with a dead bird. Some of us were workout wear-clad 30-somethings who paced the perimeter of the park, throwing tennis balls with plastic contraptions so we did not have to touch the slobbery felt. We had French bulldogs, 5 of them in matching harnesses. We had a corgi named Joy who was known to snap at dogs twice her size. We did not raise our dogs in our own image. If we had wanted carbon copies, we would have had kids, but we had dogs. We were intimate strangers united only by place and time. We heard everything. There were no secrets among us due not to trust but proximity. We did not know each other's names, but we knew which of us had to work through lunch, which of us was studying for the LSAT, which of us had no responsibilities at all. We knew who was fighting with their spouse, who was crying silently into their paperback because of their father or their landlord or the closure of their favorite neighborhood haunt and subsequent end of New York as we know it. We were the first to see new haircuts, tattoos, piercings. We were witness to sudden experimental and drastic shifts in fashion, one-night stands who came along for the morning walk. One of us was a short, bald man who wore khakis and spoke loudly to anyone who would listen about his incompetent urologist. Another of us was a woman with curly hair and perpetually crossed arms. We were Pakistani, Taiwanese, second, third, fifth, eighth generation immigrants who wanted our dogs to be happier than we were ourselves, which is why we spent our free time standing on a concrete island in the middle of the West Side Highway. One of us, fresh out of college, would go the rest of his life recalling the paradoxical remoteness of this park as his induction into adulthood. 53% of American households have dogs, 27% of New Yorkers. We were not special. We were not unclear about the difference between space and community. Our very unity hinged on our tacit refusal to acknowledge it. There were those among us who stood out from the rest. Most prominent was the dog mother, a member of the park's community coalition and a career dog walker. She showed up to the park with anywhere between 4 and 12 dogs in tow. She stood 6 feet tall, perhaps taller. She wore black jazz pants and her hair cropped short. She had a vague Eastern European accent and called us by our dogs' names, River, Leo, Chance, Penelope. She ran among the dogs, chasing them from one concrete mound to another, clapping her large hands in their direction. Let's go, come on, you sexy beasts, run. To the puppies, she shouted, come on, kids, show them what you've got, stand up for yourself. We were disgusted by her and we revered her. We felt protective of her, we felt offended by her. We told our friends and family about her during holiday small talk. We trusted her authority even as her excessive conviviality with the canines offended our sensibilities. We brought a roommate or a lover to the park, not for the dogs, but for the dog mother, standing like a shepherd among them. That's all for now.
All right, keep it going for Anne. Nice job. Thank you. The next reader, once again, someone who I've had the great pleasure to get to know in actually 2 classes this semester. Really great person all around. Alison Pauli received her undergraduate degree from Stony Brook in human evolutionary biology. However, she chose to pursue what she's been passionate about since middle school, writing. She primarily writes in science fiction and fantasy for YA and new adult. Her current thesis is a series of novels with the working title, The Penumbria Dissension. Very excited to hear what she has to read tonight. Give it up for Alison.
Thank you, Cass. I'm going to be reading from the first book in the series, the prologue, the first chapter. We don't really know what it's going to be yet, but I'm going to read the whole thing. So here we go. The world ended 100 years ago. The world that rebuilt itself was never the same, for it lived with the knowledge it could be snuffed like a candle between two fingers if it so much as grew complacent again. Penumbria stands as a ward against such complacency. The tower is a symbol that humanity, the beholden of this planet, graced by the elements, have taken on the role of protector. Until the seal is found, Penumbrians will fight against the rift and its creatures, and the Academy will train the next generation of holders in pursuit of their goal. The book fell closed in my lap, the way a newly creased spine does, still stiff in use, ready to snap your page to oblivion. The end. I almost couldn't believe I was still on the train, slogging through waste and reclaimed nature, but I consumed books at the rate fire did. When I cracked that handbook open in Alliance, I knew I'd finish within 2 hours. I pitied myself for not bringing more to do, then again because I had nothing more to bring. One duffel, a badly beaten suitcase, and the glossy cover of The Beginner's Guide to Penumbria were all that scattered the seats around me. Beyond my secluded corner, the cabin swelled with overlapping noise. A man in a stiff suit got a call at the last station and still barked at his phone from the aisle. His close crew cut revealed a verdant triangle behind his right ear, beating alongside his blood pressure. A group of teens snickered at him from the booth across. They were older than me, decorated with teardrops, electric diamonds, and one girl a white spiral around her eye that made her look cartoonishly confused. She caught me staring, and I whipped my neck towards the window. The rolling grass and skies of Wyoming were desolate, splintered every so often by jags of black stone. The stones were the only remnants of carnage this side of the surface, evidence this barren place was once a war zone, and it still is. The war just moved to the other side. For the last century, humankind has wielded elements because we've battled creatures called netheroids from the dimension beneath our feet, aptly named the nethersphere. Most of us, though, simply call it the rift, because it divides the past from now. Netheroids consume ether, which would be fine if they existed off the ether this earth was soaked in, but they don't. They hunt people for their souls, for our only weapons against them, so therefore, they are our mortal enemies. That's why Penumbria Academy exists. They train scientists and soldiers so that netheroids never reach the surface again. Instead, we go down into their world. At 14, students start training as rift holders, if they're of the lucky few considered the most elite in the country. Ironically, this train is taking me exactly there. And I say ironically because I am powerless. My name is Evelyn Lux. Like the students poking fun at the suit behind his back, I too have a sigil dormant at the base of my neck, a gold V not seen since my 12th birthday, but burned into my memory. Of all the starborns, phaseborns, and earthborns, I am of the sorry few born so dangerous, invoking was not a right I was granted. I would have remained at half potential the rest of my life had that letter not come in the mail, stamped by Penumbria's multi-starred crest. I am a light holder, a small, feared kind who control magic in its raw form, the form it assumes inside the animulus, our soul. I control ether. At least, I would soon. Thank you.
Thank you, Alison. Great job. Everyone give it up for Alison. And we're going to keep it moving right along. Going to keep it moving right into the next reader. Our next reader is Amy Handelsman. Everyone give it up for Amy.
Thank you. This is dedicated to the memory of Dan Menaker. I took a humor class with him. The prompt was a warning. Warning, regarding the care and feeding of your primate. Do not address your primate first thing in the morning, as he is slow to rouse. Indeed, he may view this as a direct confrontation and commence to growl, bellow, or bark. If that should happen, simply retreat to another part of your enclosure, backing away slowly. 2, under no circumstances are you to enforce a dress code, either by comment, critique, or even facial expression. Your primate does not appreciate suggestions which you believe to be helpful and in good taste. He is aware that the shirt is frayed at the collar, his tie is stained, and his pants are dragging on the ground. Better those than his knuckles. 3, it is advisable to leave a banana and some nuts near his cup of coffee, but do not take it amiss if he ignores them. He simply may not be hungry and needn't be reminded that breakfast is the most important meal of the day. 4, expect that you are to blame if any of his toys go missing, including iPhone, iPad, iPod, keys, and MetroCard. 5, yes, he did intend to leave all of the overhead lights ablaze. 6, it is ill-advised to interrupt your primate while he is at play with his peers. However, if you must, expect communication in grunts only. 7, upon your primate's return, be prepared for unpredictable behavior. If play has gone well with his fellow primates, he may indulge in spirited chest thumping or even lift you up in tight embrace. Pat him if he does that to reinforce the behavior. If, on the other hand, it was a rough day in the jungle, he may dart to the comfort of his cave. Any attempts to draw him out will provoke him. He will emerge when ready, quite possibly drawn by the scent of food. 8, your primate likewise cannot always be depended on for convivial meal sharing. He may decide to drag his food to the couch so he could recline while eating, playing with his phone or watching moving images on the television screen. Obstructing his view is not recommended. 9, it is expected that the area around your primate may contain detritus from his meal. And should he get food in any part of his beard or chest hair, do not, under risk of a sound swatting, attempt to remove it. 10, at the end of the day, your primate may desire a languorous mutual grooming session. This could be interpreted many ways. Social grooming can be a form of reconciliation and conflict resolution, and generally enhances bonding and trust. You may find dead skin and foreign objects on your primate, such as insects, ectoparasites, leaves, dirt, and twigs. Social grooming may also take the form of stroking, scratching, and massaging, and is often a precursor to coitus. Alternately, grooming stimulates the release of beta-endorphin, promoting relaxation. It is possible, therefore, that your primate may fall asleep while grooming. This is not to be taken as a rejection of your mate-worthiness. 11, noises emanating from your primate in the night are to be expected and should not alarm you. They may include sighs, snores, throat clearing, grunts, groans, and flatulence. 12, if your primate rolls over and sprawls onto your territory, try gently to roll him back without disturbing his sleep, which is sorely earned, he says. In the same vein, should he pull all of the covers to his side of the bed, let him. You can always cling to his hirsute body for warmth. As a last word, be grateful for your primate and the care and feeding that goes with him, and he will reward you with a lifetime of loyalty and affection. He may even throw you a bone for good measure. Thank you.
Thank you, Amy. All right. Thank you. Everyone give it up for Amy Handelsman. I'm excited to introduce our next reader, who not only had a class with this semester, but who read a very interesting piece at the Halloween Flash Fiction Showcase, which I still remember quite well. If you weren't there, you just won't be in on that. Joe Levins recently retired from another industry and is in his first year of the MFA program. He's not new to writing, though. He has 2 unpublished novels and 2 unpublished story collections. Many of his individual stories have appeared in literary magazines throughout the years. Everyone give it up for Joe.
Thank you, Cass. I'm going to read a short little clip from a much longer work. 1860. An article runs in the New York Times focusing on the Ramble in Central Park. It cites 2 problems with the 38-acre wooded sanctuary. 1, there are very few benches. 2, there are no signs showing the visitor how to get out. Aptly named, the Ramble is a place where one is encouraged to simply wander, designed for a walk without a definite route. 1866. An article in the New York Evening Post declares the Ramble as the very soul of the park. Many believe this is still true today. 1897. An article in the Times appears with the title, "Lived a Month in a Cave." One 15-year-old Susie Gwinnett, a runaway, was turned over to the Jerry Society after having been found in an underground section of the Ramble, below the 79th Street Traverse. For years named Indian Cave, the area is eventually sealed off in 1934 because it attracts too much crime and untoward acts. Today, steps leading down into it can still be seen by keen eyes if one specifically searches. To those simply roaming the park, rambling, all evidence of a cave will go unnoticed. 1955. Two articles are published in the Talk of the Town section of the New Yorker, appealing to Robert Moses, Commissioner of Parks, requesting him not to convert the majority of the Ramble's acreage to a planned indoor-outdoor recreational unit for seniors. Due to this and other lobby efforts, Mr. Moses experiences a climactic change of heart, so much so that he sets forth a major rehabilitation plan to restore the Ramble to its pristine wild charm and keep it forever protected. I believe there is some history here as I roam these paths. I don't know where I'm going, and I suppose it doesn't really matter. What is important is the journey, not the arrival. Perhaps if there was a little more snow, it all would seem more attractive. The park to me appears dismal in winter. It is not dirty. The Conservancy does a wonderful job keeping it up. But it is barren, lifeless. There is no lush greenery anywhere. All of that left in October when, in every direction you set your sight, there was a smattering of reds and oranges and yellows. Apparently this part of the park does not attract many visitors, at least not on a cloudy day in early winter. I am here alone with my thoughts. It is comforting despite the gloom. The Ramble is helping me to live as softly in the world as I could. I feel for the small, hard knot at the core of myself, the place you can't divide anymore, where it's just pure you. As I walk, I understand that movement is your inheritance, that hope is your birthright. Even in the winter chill, there is possibility. Not everyone is called to be a hermit, to live under cavernous rock or in the deep of the woods. But we all need enough silence and solitude in our lives to enable the inner voice of our own true self to be heard. I have set simple needs for myself, and I alone fulfill them. A bench. I will rest for a short while. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Joe. Thank you. And I am so excited to announce our next reader. Not only someone who I had 2 classes with this semester, but someone whose short fiction I am a huge fan of. Jess Simpson is a first-year student and is thrilled to be involved in this virtual event. When she's not writing or procrastinating writing, she enjoys watching the Great British Baking Show and teaching virtual Zumba classes. Her work has been published in Spry Literary Journal and The Smart Set, and today she'll be reading a short which she wrote for Amy Hempel's Brilliant Forms of Fiction class. Give it up for Jess Simpson.
Thank you, Cass. I'm going to be reading a short from Amy's class, and the prompt was questions, so it's all questions. It's called Push Your Boundaries. If I found us a wedge of the finest blue cheese, would you trust me enough to taste it? Would you savor it with abandon? Or would the gorgonzola repel you all the same? Could you lie to me and say, yes, it was worth it, the veins, the smell sharp like human feet, or a petting zoo or other gross equivalents? Have you ever flirted with veganism? If so, why didn't you commit? Would you object if I told you about my childhood? Like the time my old synagogue set up a petting zoo for Purim, and I lulled a rabbit to sleep in my arms. What stuffed animal did you need to sleep soundly when you were young? If I adopted a goldfish or a turtle, would you help me name it? Scout for a suitable aquarium, terrarium abode? Outside of your immediate family, whom do you love? What if I invited you to celebrate Passover with my family? Would you come and confront the Seder, the chicken liver, the gefilte fish? Would you treat it like the blue cheese? When my mother asked you how you worship, would you confess to your Catholic upbringing? What would you say if I asked to read your horoscope and your palm and your tarot cards? Would you answer to an endearment, please? Do you cringe at public displays of affection? What offends you, depresses you, turns you on? What about my body excites you? How do I know already if you're the kind of person who stands and sways at a concert or sings along? If a stranger at a concert started to tell you his life story, would you listen, buy him a beer, smoke the joint he offered to share? When was the last time you punched your fist into a wall? Say I took up an interest in the outdoors. Would you help me record my efforts? Would you take one photo of me and another of us before I rafted down the Colorado? If I found a nice cliff overlooking a deep lake, would you jump with me? Could you do a backflip if you tried? Would you just sign a waiver and come spelunking? Go fly a kite, why don't you wonder? Are you CPR certified? And what if after a while, a year or so, I got tired and moved away somewhere way west of where we are? Would you let me leave? Or would you chase me cross country and join me off of I-70? Could you stand to live in a yurt? Would our pet turtle be comfortable in a place so far remote? And without technology, how long do you think before we starved? Would you still buy me some flowers? If you were going to die and soon, where would you run? Somewhere near your hometown, near the yurt we built near Bozeman? Would you judge me if I prayed? Forgive me when I called you mother. Would you finally finish your novel? Would you regret never having a child? Would you stop asking me to go, please? It's annoying, and don't you understand that I'm no longer asking? That I'm telling you that I will be here to remind you to yell and to steal and to look to the stars. Because if I am not by your side to push your boundaries, my beloved, who will? And that's it. Thanks.
Thank you, Jess. That was great. I was in that class, so I knew I would know the piece, but I was excited because I didn't know which piece Jess was going to read. Big fan. The next reader coming up is going to be Rob Taylor. Rob was also at the Halloween Flash Fiction Contest. I was a big fan of Rob's piece there. I'm excited to hear what he's got for us tonight. Take it away, Rob. Everybody give Rob a hand.
Thanks, Cass. It's gonna be more weird stuff. I usually try not to preamble, but this literally wouldn't make sense if I didn't. This is something I've been working on for a while. It's about a guy who basically is talking to himself. That's all you need to know. And he's going to a hotel back and forth for people who talk to themselves. So there you go. We woke up paralyzed on a train. We could tell it was a train from the distinct sound of steel on tracks, zipping underground, searching for life to carry. We remember what we did, who we were, why we left so early. The subway car that we were in was flooded with a wave of purple, a dark violet, harsh, corrupt purple, a swollen lip purple, bad drugs purple, a shriveling, wheezing purple, a once pregnant purple, an inside out purple. Lights from passing stations jump in and out of frames. This centers me, the gangly strands of yellow on top of my sloppiness. I am held accountable, maybe because of last night, maybe from the night before. There were figures, these figures, across from where we were sitting, shapes like passengers, like pastel city mob against stark white, heights and weights and ages and edges and levels of care. They held on to the handlebars like any sudden shift will split them into pieces. They all wore my face the way I do, the same melting cheeks I am, the same yellow-eyed runaway I am, the same untouched I am, the forgetful bad liar I am, wincing at time leaving I am. Faces can pass me by, but I sat there, invalid, watching, our eyes on our faces, looking at things, express what I was not seeing, react to things I could not see, move where I don't want them to. A lanky man with my face straddled the bar, top of his head grazing the roof, looked like I reading body language, reading conversations I can't hear between two people who also don't know each other. A woman, a mother with my face, breastfed a bundle, her violet breasts pulsating, drained by squirming head. Hush now, this mother looks like she says, or at least I hope she said, and not the hissing at me we were used to. Three young people with my face stand to the right of the bench. They were kissing, making out, heavily petting the taller of the three, tongue rings showing age, globs of spit drooled down their mandibles. A young child with my face, 7, maybe 8, ran from one end of the car to the other, never losing a step, propelling himself off the doors with his hands like wind sprints, looking like when I roared to mom when father was still around. An older man with my face, sweat around his eyes and food in his beard, had curled himself into the bench, his arms wrapped around his knees. He said something, then laughed, said something, then laughed, said something, then laughed, looking like I when we were in the resort, laughing at me, playing with our food. We pulled and pulled, but were stuck in our section. We could feel them look at me and I in these discombobulated husks, looking at us like we were them and this was our section. Thief section, heaving purple section, spit swabbing freak section. We rode the rails from station to station, hoping to at least feel as bad as I wanted to, no matter how unappealing this was for me. All I knew was that we were missing the resort. Stupid me, stupid I, maybe they'll accept us back. Maroon and tan and chandeliers and scheduled slop and mingling hours didn't seem so bad. The comfort of our hotel room didn't seem so bad to me now. At least there, I didn't have to see what I looked like. Thank you.
Thank you, Rob. That's great. I really like weird stuff. uh, very excited to announce the next reader, Jen. They're a good friend of mine, someone who I'm very glad to know. And no offense to anyone else's cat, but Jen's cat is my favorite cat I've seen on Zoom all year. Jen Cooper is a second-year MFA candidate, CWL 202 instructor, and student life assistant at Stony Brook, Southampton. They're reading some fragments from their thesis. Take it away, Jen.
So preface that the said cat might interrupt, but let's go for it. This is some fragments from my thesis, If We Make It to Someday. On finding a CVS Caremark card in a parking lot. It was a faded red, as if it had sat at the bottom of a 10-year-old purse collecting dust and flakes of shredded paper and sand. It wasn't a broken object, but a collector's item for people who can't give away unread books, who can't toss crumpled notes from their seatmate on the middle school bus, who can't delete poorly written, sentimental sentences. I pocketed it. A walk in the gated community. A sober fixed tree wiggles in the night against an ethereal backdrop. Above, the kind of constellations that make you want to name them, that get you lost in research and fiction and science. The fading summer, the denial of fall, the last heated breeze that forces you to look up at the light freckled sky. I try to take a picture of the sparkling smoothness, the orderly stars trailing down the sky to the house's trellis like blinking lights that say, enter, magic here, but it's too dark out. I can't see the lake through the branches that weren't this willowed in the summer. It's so easy to get lost in the trees. Fright versus fear. The swallowed darkness of night is only scary with the chill of October. One of the mansions hugged cobwebs from its turrets for what I think was a celebration of Halloween. The lights merely give silhouette, not color. But I don't want to see through the darkness, I want to become the darkness.
With the ground flickering in and out of my fuzzy vision, I think, I'm walking awfully fast for someone who can't see where they're going. Exceptional excuses. I can't explain the feeling of depression confining me to my apartment because every writer, every therapist, everyone has said it already. I know that going for a walk will make me feel better, that eating some blueberries will make me feel better, that downing 6 beers will make me feel better. I usually choose the third. Except there are days I try forcing myself to go for a 15-minute walk with the ideal destination of the beach, except I know I'll only walk 2 minutes to a bench where I can merely see the water. Except the water is just fog and there is no ocean. Except there is an ocean, because with the thick air outside, I feel the heavy salt in every pore. Loneliness has found more of a home in my body than I have. Someday, leaves on trees that had budded baby pink dye a vivid crimson. A 4:30 sunset chased me into the darkness of still waters. I wore tank tops in March when it broke 50 degrees, and now, in November, I tug on a jacket as the impending winter freeze dances in the air. I remember in June when the 8 p.m. setting sun kept me up and out into an infinite midnight. Standing on the sand, I conclude the ocean's change is seasonal and cyclical. And I wonder about scientists, who were people before they were scientists, and they discovered discovery. They didn't have scientific questions on something they learned or heard, theories to test out, but just an obsession with the entropy of their beloved subject. They created the science firsthand and cut out the fiction with their proof. They obsessed about water drowning the shore, the microscopic change. On finding a horseshoe crab at the beach, was it alive weeks ago? For how long did it sit, husk broken and alone? Did it lay abandoned for days? Could I have saved it? Could it have been saved? Perspectives. It wasn't until I saw the clear blackness of night against the full starlight that I saw the world as round, the stars a grid for blueprints of the world it encased. The darkness on the invisible street could have been leaves or could have been the portal to the life I should have lived. When it's just you, the trees, and the stars at 3 a.m., it's easy to believe you're the only person in the world. Then a car's lights flashed as it drove by, blinding and silent. In its disappearance, the night became whole again, mine again.
Great, awesome. Thank you, Jen. Thank you. And we're gonna keep it going. We're gonna introduce our penultimate reader of the night, second to last reader of the night. Jillian Larussa is a multi-genreist MFA candidate set to graduate in December. Tonight, she'll be reading an excerpt from her thesis, a memoir called Paper Dolls. Take it away, Jillian.
All right, so this is the beginning of my first chapter, and it's called Unlove. He says he wasn't sure I liked him, wasn't sure this would happen, and I say I like to keep things at my chest, but the street lamp's dim glow swallows the truth into the mouth of the night. I'm not sure I like him. I'm not sure I like me. I'm only sure I like the way he slipped off my bra. 1 minute it was on, and the next, the lace cleared my skin, and it was just his hand on my back. Fingers wide over the mountain range of my ribcage spine ribcage, strumming their peaks and valleys, and now I'm smaller than the smallest bird. I'm an eggshell, cracked open whole. I meet Mike at a mutual friend's bridal shower that I do not know is a bridal shower until I am there with my sneakers kicked up atop an empty chair, hoping no one will talk to me, Cool Ranch Dorito bowl resting on my stomach to deter anyone that may dare get close. I cannot eat Doritos, but my hand is an automatic claw, rising to my mouth with the precision of an ancient, coin-operated wish machine at Coney Island. It is not the first time I meet Mike. Back in high school, when I could read myself a new life, I would dream cast my classmates into the roles I connected to the most. There was this one character, a bad boy, but a bad, sad boy, that particularly struck me, and I was desperate to give a face to the name in my fantasies. If I went to the bathroom in the E-Tower hallway during my lunch period, a far walk but perfect for pretending to be part of a fictional life, I would see him. He had dyed colorful hair back then. He still wore black skinny jeans. He never smiled. But there was something in the pull of his neck, the way it arched forward at an angle, like a cobweb slung on a tree, as he loped across from F Tower to the library, that made me choose him. I am sitting in Mike's basement, far from my 15-year-old self, touching that same bit of skin, talking about what fun hue to dye next when he says, well, in high school I had blue hair. I am stunned, silent, and stupid, and when I do speak, when I do spill my story, I do not think he feels the weight rest onto his shoulders, but I never unsee it. And like with that bad, sad boy, we do not work out, too. We're only supposed to be hanging out, a brief and stupid understatement of fucking and dating, a synonym for a relationship that works for the unbrave and few else, for a couple of months. He tells me at the end of March that he'll be moving across the country at the beginning of May, and I make the idiotic mistake of crying. It was one of those things, like when your friends tell you not to look now, and you do, and you spin your head so fast you could get whiplash, and the person they're talking about definitely sees you making a fool of yourself. The tears come quick and hot and are the spilling kind, the kind that carve through my foundation quite unforgiving. Mike is shocked, and I hate myself even more. I hate myself most, though, when I watch him, for the next 6 weeks, fret over leaving until he decides not to and gets a good job and stays. He never says it's for me, but it's the unsaid I hear. To unsay is not to unspeak. It is to leave room enough in your words for the pauses to form clauses of their own. It is ghostly conversation. Mike and I are not edging toward what I thought we were, even though I am too smart for him, and he's a complete goof, and also maybe an idiot. I thought we were at the start of love, where life gets too good to dream about any other kind of fantastical future, and instead I replay moments of reality before bed. And so I gift him 2 20 by 30 framed posters from his favorite movie. They aren't just any old posters either. I research for at least a half an hour and probably steal someone's original art to get these printed. And then I drive back and forth to my drugstore 4 times to figure out how to get the pictures in full without some bullshit mandatory crop taking off half the image. I spend way too much money on frames, and even more on the actual printing, and I realize on the way home from his house what the gift means. They aren't just any old posters, no, they're tokens of affection. They're carefully connoisseured representations of how I feel. But are they? I don't feel like that. I realize in the silence of his response how he sees me turn them around, and he takes his time to consider them, and he hugs me, and that's it? This is love, this is my heart, this is me acting without thinking, because when you fall, you don't know you're falling, you just are. And I did not know I could fall after Peter, after Steve, and so I leapt for you. And instead you took a rope and threw it over the edge and lassoed me back up to the top and shook your little head and made sure I didn't make that mistake again.
Great job, Jillian. And before I introduce our last reader, I just want to say thank you again to everybody who's read tonight. Thank you to everybody who is watching now. I'm so glad that you stuck around. I hope you've been enjoying this as much as I have. And our final reader, our headliner for the night, is going to be Amre Klimchak. Everyone give it up for Amre.
Thank you so much. I'm working on a memoir, and this is a piece from it. But I mean, it'll be edited, of course, at some point. On a brisk October afternoon in Madison, Wisconsin, I was a few weeks into a cross-country road trip with my Shepherd Greyhound mix, Raina, when I decided to stop at a local vegan-friendly coffee house to take advantage of the free Wi-Fi. I parked our fast black ship, a Honda CRV, on the street out front, not far from a sign that announced no parking, 5 to 7 p.m. It was nearly 3, but I didn't plan to stick around long. I cracked the windows to let in some fresh air for Raina, kissed her on the head, grabbed my laptop, and headed inside. The coffee shop was charming, and soon I was drawn in by the glowing screen of my MacBook. Before I knew what was happening, I had moved on from searching for dog-friendly hotels to checking my email and uploading the gorgeous photos I'd snapped that afternoon of Raina frolicking amidst the fall foliage as we strolled around Lake Mendota in downtown Madison. I admired the moments I'd captured and experienced the thrill of knowing that this was only the beginning of our adventures on the road. When I'd finally pried myself free of the internet juggernaut, I looked down at my watch. The hands pointed to 5, and a few minutes passed. Oh no. I pictured a ticket underneath my windshield wiper flapping in the breeze. I quickly shut my laptop, gathered my coat and scarf, and hurried out to the street. When I arrived at the spot where I'd left the Honda, the street was devoid of parked cars, including mine. Panic filled my every fiber. Where's my car? Where's my dog? Were they stolen together? No, Raina would never allow a stranger into the car. As I looked again at the sign I'd seen earlier, a new neural pathway blazed with the knowledge of what had happened. In Madison, when they say no parking, they mean no fucking parking. They don't just give you a ticket. They tow your goddamn car, even if your dog's in it.
Great. Wow. Great job. All right. Thank you so much. Thank you, Amre. Thank you to all of our readers. Thank you for coming, everyone. I hope you enjoyed it. I really enjoyed all the reading that we've heard tonight. This has been a great time. The exits, as you can see, are located at the top right corner of your window. I hope everyone has a safe drive back. Thank you.